play too many video games? Are they wasting their time fiddling around with the buttons and joysticks? Call your local ISP and have them shut off the internet, and then they won't be able to play any of their hard-earned games.
You think that's true?
It happened to Sony.
Did
last
it
night.
happen?
Yeah, PSN went down and people were locked out of their shit.
That's fucking funny. That's not funny, but fucked up.
Think about how the PS Plus, there's entire games in the
libraries,
where if you bought it, I think it defaults to the
PlayStation Plus
Plus version.
That's I didn't know it was that fucked up. I thought it was just like, I can't play Warzone or Fortnite.
I could have lied just then. It might actually default to your local purchase, but
people
play games assuming they're going to have access to them, right? They pay for their account assuming they're going to be able to access.
This is Memory Leak, by the way.
This is Memory Leak, your podcast about games and gamers and gaming news and gaming trends. And
unfortunately, for this upcoming year, we're gonna have to change our tune to family, to spirituality. Games are for clods. They're for
clods.
They're for children.
They're for dirtbags.
Some of the most useless individuals on this earth. And unfortunately I made some of them, so I've created some of these slime balls, but I will repent, and very, very soon you'll see me in the headlines for the way that I never mind, that's not
really
true.
Fucking funny seeing Geron saying this while he's holding a Switch that's on in his hand, ready to lock in to a fucking Super Nintendo game.
Yeah, I have the microphone in my armpit, so I can hold a Nintendo game Switch comfortably in my hand.
You're gonna make our producer mad.
That's true. I mean, you're not gonna hear the button clicking. He won't. He won't.
What's your name?
My name is Geron, Trade West Geron, and who are you?
Benjamin Juiced to Benjamin.
Oh my god, yeah, you've been playing Harmony.
That game's weird.
It's fucking weird as shit.
Weird.
It's weird as shit. It's
definitely the weirdest one I've played.
It's a fun game. It's a fun video game.
It's fine.
It's weird to look at. It sounds bad. Some of the compositions are good, but it sounds bad.
It sounds terrible.
And you're like, when you're done with it, you'll be like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
But it's also has the dashing left and
the dashing
back
feels
and forward.
good.
You just there's no trick to it.
It feels almost
just
out of place good.
Yeah, it's too good. Yeah.
Like I have this floaty ass jump. And then I'm just flying around with the dash. I'm just like, this is so weird.
And Juice jump where he keeps his legs together and
dude, I'm gonna tell you,
pulls his knees up. It's the weirdest.
I enjoyed
little
Circle
animation.
of the Moon. There were a couple moments where I was like, all right, I've seen this hallway.
Yeah.
I've seen some of these rooms before. I'm ready to go on to the next thing. But I really enjoyed my time with Circle of the Moon.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely held up. I think the sprite work's great. I think the music is great, even though most of it is just remixes.
Most of it's just remixes, redone for the Game Boy Advance.
How the gameplay was fresh. People don't really like the card drop system. I didn't really have that much of an issue with it.
My biggest problem with the game isn't actually the card drops are kind of bad if you're trying to get all of them.
I got all of them.
You can also just easily break it. There's a very easy thing to do. You can do.
Is it Uranus?
Huh? No. You pick.
The thing, the glitch.
Yeah,
the glitch to use the cards you don't have yet.
It's very easy to do it by accident if you don't already know too. And my real problem with it is double tapping to run.
That is definitely my biggest problem with it.
That shit does not feel good.
That shit feels terrible.
He already it doesn't feel good on a Game Boy Advance D-pad. I'll say that. And he's already slow as shit and falls like a rock.
Yeah.
So you feel like it feels rough. It feels like they're putting classic Castlevania movement into a game that really
was my interpretation as well. Is they were trying to find a way to modernize the feeling of old Castlevania.
Yeah.
Which I think they probably did. That's actually one of the things I think Harmony did right.
Yeah.
Of you have the freedom of moving midair, but once you use the whip, you kind of have that commitment.
And
then you're locked in on that trajectory. Yeah. So I thought that
you can kind of shuffle around in that game, right? Like you whip it out, you can kind of push yourself back, like the other. I can't remember.
Not really. No, once you whip, you can't move at all.
You're stuck. Okay.
As soon as you start that animation.
Yeah, I mean, Juiced is Simon's grandson, so
yeah.
And the game's 50 years after Castlevania 2.
But one of the things that was the perfect analogy or metaphor for the difference in production quality between Circle of the Moon and Harmony was pushing a crate. Because pushing a crate, it has like a whole thing tied behind it. It's very obvious which ones you can push.
Yeah.
And when you push, you go into this
The
animation
of him
in Circle of the Moon. He's
pushing
like
it.
pushing up against it.
Yeah.
You know, it changes his movement speed. Harmony, you can just push things wherever they want.
Yeah.
It's really just an artificial barrier of like 2 seconds. There's no thought behind what you're pushing or where you're pushing it, except for like one room. But like he just keeps running in the same animation.
Yeah,
I'm just like, like this. It's just such an obvious small thing to be like, come on, man.
It feels like the game feels like a team of people who are used to having all of the the luxury air quotes on that one, luxury of space and RAM and everything that the PlayStation offered them. And now and the CD of a PlayStation and the sound, Sony sound chip and all that shit. And they're trying to crunch that all into a Game Boy Advance without like experience with it. And the same thing actually happened on the PS2. Like
But that's also why it's so baffling to me that Circle of the Moon is as good as it is.
Yeah.
Because it took advantage of the hardware in like all the ways that it could have.
And the team that made that had been working on N64 games. So they were still on cartridges. They were still
I see.
with those limitations.
On like the Nintendo limitations.
They were they were still
I see, that's interesting.
They were doing things that made sense.
Was the Harmony team the Symphony of the Night team?
The Harmony team is the first of the actual Igavanias on the Game Boy Advance. Okay. So that's why it like that's why it pays homage to Castlevania 2 and
it also just feels kind of like a direct rip of Symphony of the Night, but worse.
Yeah. Even Juice looks like Alucard.
Yeah.
Like Juice has no reason to have
the
white
dashing
hair,
kind of
really.
feels a little bit like it.
Yeah. The
fact that there's two fucking castles, I rolled the shit out of my eyes when I realized that's what was happening. I was like, oh, brother.
Yeah. Harmony of Dissonance definitely feels like a first try, whereas Circle of the Moon feels like a third try.
It could have been a late stage.
Yeah, they could have flipped.
Yeah.
And production wise, you would have been like, oh, this evolution makes sense because Aria blows both of them out like right the fuck out.
Never played Aria. I'm excited for it.
Aria is what like the DS games are sitting on basically.
Right.
So that's why the first DS.
No, yeah, I know people love Aria, but I wanted to touch Harmony.
Yeah. That makes complete fucking sense.
But enough about me. What have you been playing?
Enough about me. What have you been playing?
I've been playing The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, like a lot of people have. I've been playing.
How far are you in that?
How far? I've done 2 of the dungeons. Yeah,
okay, I just finished the second dungeon.
Yeah, I've done 2 of the dungeons, but like your second dungeon might be different than my second. I did the Gerudo dungeon first.
I did too.
Oh, okay.
Because it was closest.
Oh, I went all the way up to the top left corner of the map.
Did you do that? I actually almost went to the top left corner, and then I started seeing caves and shit, and I was like, I don't want to do this yet. And then I went back.
Oh, I saw the shit, and I was like, I can use my bed on this shit.
Dude, that's a good game.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's a really good game.
I really like the freedom of that game. It's exactly like philosophically, it's almost what I wish Tears of the Kingdom had done of like committing to the idea of like no combat, of like using the mechanics, the unique shit, the unique framework of the game, and having and like sort of putting that in a familiar Zelda game,
very familiar style of Zelda game, but like it's twisted up and it's twisted up enough that I can't even really call it a 2D Zelda game. I can call it a top-down Zelda game because you end up thinking of the like the topography going up and down and the map going up and there is a lot of Z-axis in that game. Because you can do shit like get on top of trees and go walk up on top of the forests,
which I think is also why they actually added the button of changing the angle to be completely top down.
Yeah, you can click
because they understand that with the Z-axis that you kind of need a way to adjust the camera.
Yeah, you can click the right stick in and then do that. And they tell you that on a little controller like screen in the menu, but I found that I realized what I was doing by accident, and then I was like, "Oh, they told me I could fucking do this shit."
Yeah, I love the way that it feels like everything about the game is just telling you to burst out of the boundaries of what you think the game is supposed to be like.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's so many times where it's like clearly like, oh, in a normal Zelda game, you'd be blocked by this situation.
You'd be blocked here,
but you can fucking get around it in X, Y, or Z different ways.
Yeah.
You have the freedom to tackle this shit in whatever way you want.
Yeah.
Like it feels fucking good to like have that sort of respect.
Exactly.
Like, give the player that respect of like, we know you know.
You,
So
you don't feel like you're
go-
outsmarting the game, but you don't
Right.
feel like you're being interrupted by their challenges. Like you did you figure something out? Fuck it, here you go. It works.
exactly, yeah.
The I got a heart piece doing that.
Yeah.
I put the little tree and I climbed up to it. It's like, oh, they want you to go like all the way down and
Yeah.
around to get that shit.
I definitely found some shit where I was just like way off the beaten path, and
Yeah.
then I was like kind of rewarded for it, which is like that's the good shit,
Yeah.
man.
I got some just kind of exploring because I've gone up to the left corner and the bottom right corner now.
Oh, okay.
And I found some echoes that I was like, these are going to be fucking just useful as shit.
Yeah.
This is great just having them now. I got one that I don't have enough pips to
really?
actually use.
That's really funny.
I was like, oh fuck, this one's so like past me that I can't. The fact that I defeated the enemy is like, oh, that's fucking great.
that's really
But I
fucking
can't
funny.
use it because I'm
It's
not
a
high
glimpse
enough.
into your future.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn,
But,
that's tight.
yeah.
I love how many things they give you, how many tools in your
Yeah.
toolbox you get. Because like even like I'd say the first dungeon alone, once you're done with that dungeon,
Yeah.
I feel like they've given you so much shit that you can think about using
Yeah,
that could have been the whole game that they paced that out, and
right.
it would have still felt okay.
exactly. Like it doesn't have the feeling of like, oh, I need a hook shot here. It's now I have enough shit. Maybe I could just finagle away
Yeah,
to get onto this this pillar that has this heart piece on it, or get into this cave that, oh, I need a bomb. What the fuck do I don't have bombs? Or no, I do have a bomb because this enemy explodes.
exactly.
You just use it, you know?
Yeah, you're using like the properties of the enemies as
Yeah.
extensions of your item toolkit.
Exactly. Like Zelda's kind of like some people equate it to Pokemon. I think of it more like she's like Olimar,
Oh, okay,
where she's got a bunch of Pikmin that she can pull out
Yeah,
at any
that
time.
makes
and some of
sense.
them have, all of them have.
You do feel kind of like a tactician,
Yeah,
where you're just like instructing things to happen,
right. You're
which
like,
is fucking
like
cool.
come out here and deal with the thing. I'm delegating the fighting to you while I figure blah 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 out.
Yeah,
What's it called? And the fact that the fact that they added like 3D sort of like 3D game controls, like the lock on,
yeah.
which
I think it needed. There's certain instances where it's like I forget that I could do it. I'm like, how the fuck do I solve this? And then I'm like, oh,
I need to lock on.
I
to it
need
so
to
can
lock on in
use
order to
the-
get this angle, this
Yeah,
specific angle
exactly.
that is normally very like basically not doable in a normal 2D
Right,
Zelda instance.
And that's this like Z-axis stuff that they need.
Yeah.
The 3-dimensionality of the gameplay comes from being able to lock on and like you use your, what the fuck is the beam called? The little tractor beam.
Oh, just try.
That's kind of like Ultra Hand.
Yeah, just try to like lock on, like to connect to it.
The green beam.
Is there a word for
I think
it?
it has a name. Yeah.
There must be a word for it.
Well, either way, trying to use that like with a 2D mentality means anything that's on a plane below you is inaccessible. But using the lock on, you just
Right.
I just beam to it. Now you
Exactly.
it moves around. You kind of move with it on a different level, whatever.
I think what I like about it and what you mentioned about not calling it a 2D Zelda is it really does represent an evolution in the 2D Zelda line of like really innovating and expanding on the original ideas and
Mhm.
like evolving it in a way. I think the 2D to 3D nature of it is representative in like the gameplay innovation as well.
Mhm.
I'm trying to explain it in a way that's like when Mario went from 2D to 3D in Mario 64, like that was a huge step,
That
not
was a
just
huge-
from graphically, but
innovation
innovation
the
in the
way
gameplay.
you play the game.
This feels like that step of innovation for the
Mhm.
2D Zelda line. Like
Yeah.
I still loved, Link Between Worlds and what else even was there? Triforce Heroes.
Triforce Heroes is bad. I don't like that game.
I like framework of Triforce Heroes.
I like the way it looks. I like some of the things
I like
about
the
it,
multiplayer.
but and it's very easy to cheese in single player. The multiplayer was annoying because everybody was like,
Oh, let's not do the objective.
and I was like,
Well, you play with the wrong people.
let's just finish the game.
It sounds like a skill issue.
It's a skill issue. That sounds like a skill issue. Okay. I mean, I finished the game alone, so you can show
Anyway,
me your own ass, but-
Triforce Heroes, I think, was the perfect example of where they were like, it's clear they didn't know really what to do with
Yeah.
2D Zelda. They're like, well, we can throw more people at it. We can throw multiplayer. We can throw these kind of weird shit at it.
Yeah.
But I think Echoes of Wisdom is finally like, all right, here's some fresh
I think
shit to bite into.
Yeah, Echoes of Wisdom is that's why I'm like not gonna call them 2D Zeldas anymore. I'll call them top down
Yeah.
because they're even Link's Awakening, the remake, isn't necessarily it's 2D, like the gameplay's in 2D, but it also has the has levels to the topography.
Right.
And you can really feel them now that the game is in 3D. And then A Link Between Worlds has the, you do the wall thing, the painting thing, and you're moving around in the environments in 3D, not to mention the game's on the 3DS, so you can see it in a 3D perspective. And I think that gameplay style is important to keep because there's certain puzzles you just can't make. You can make those grid style puzzles with that rather than trying to rely on, put this big landmarked 3D object on this landmarked thing over here or whatever. You know what I mean?
Like with that camera angle, it's harder to.
It's just a different dynamic to it,
Yeah.
It's like trying to do Sudoku, but you're doing it on a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah. I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I will say with Echoes of Wisdom, it's interesting because to me it is sort of like a completely new direction in the way that sort of Breath of the Wild was a completely new direction.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to see with both 3D and top-down Zeldas.
There you go.
If they maintain that or if they regress to some degree. I don't know if regress is the right word, but
I mean, I would call it a regression. If certain chatters in a certain Twitch chat like the games, I think they're probably regressing. But no, I think Zelda as it is going to be a ground for it already was a grounds for experimentation, but we're never going to get that 5 sequels to Ocarina of Time situation again. Because looking back on that, it's like, how the fuck could they stand making the games that way? Not that Twilight Princess or whatever is bad or anything. I just think they've done it already. You can get Ocarina of Time. You can get Ocarina of Time on the GameCube.
Yeah.
So it was just like Ocarina of Time, but bigger isn't really a thing.
I think the way I perceived it is it's more steps rather than leaps.
Right. Yeah.
Like they were still have a very unique identity to them aside from Ocarina of Time, and I'm not just talking about aesthetically.
Yeah.
But
I don't even
gameplay wise, they
all,
feel very different, and the puzzles are challenged and tackled in different ways because they have completely different item sets and things like that. So I think they similar to Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom being a quote unquote sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Tears of the Kingdom is so different from Breath of the Wild.
It is so different, but it's like
for me to...
the all I'm trying to illustrate is that they use the same world to evolve the ideas that they had.
Yeah, right.
Like Breath of the Wild was clearly about them making the world more so than it was about making like the gameplay.
Your abilities, yeah.
Yeah, and then Tears of the Kingdom was like, well, now that we have this world, how do we continue to build on this and sort of like giving you different skills, different abilities? That's kind of like I think what they were dealing with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess is like, okay, we have this framework of a 3D Zelda with dungeons and a progression system that's familiar. How do we iterate on some of the remaining ideas that we have here? With Wind Waker, a lot of it was sort of like, how do we change the world up? How do we change the aesthetics up? How do we change the vibe up? With Twilight Princess is more like, how do we change the combat up?
Yeah.
How do we really like hone in on like the core identity of like what is a Zelda dungeon? I think the dungeons have a cool uniqueness to like their core, like they feel the most Zelda-y in their identity of the dungeon.
You're talking about Twilight Princess?
Yeah, Twilight Princess.
Okay, yeah. The dungeons in Twilight Princess are the best part, which is great news.
Twilight Princess has the best dungeons, and I also still think the best like combat systems, just in terms of like some of the fluidity and like the freedom of expression.
Interesting.
Whereas I think most Zelda games don't really lean into the combat. I think the combat is more of like
is often secondary.
Yeah, it's sort of like just there to change up the pacing to a degree.
It's there to give you a threat while you're doing something.
Yeah. While
you're on your way to something else. On the other hand, though, I think Twilight Princess has some control issues that make the combat it's like a personal control issue that makes the combat a little less good to me. And I wish I know Link gets more moves, but I wish he still had more moves to use in any Zelda game.
Yeah.
Like Breath of the Wild cut down on how many moves he had, but then you had all the different items and shit that you could use. So that was a different take on all of that. I'll never get over the sword slashing in Twilight Princess being done by releasing the button. I'll never get over it. I hate when something controls that way. Like I prefer the Wii remote controls over the GameCube controls because of that shit.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think of the most when I think of Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
Anyway, even though that was, it's the weird, quote unquote, weirder version of the game, because it's mirrored.
Yeah, like Twilight Princess on Wii is perfectly fine. But yeah, so Echoes of Wisdom is good shit, genuinely.
The last
I
thought
think-
that I wanted to just sort of make known,
Yeah.
again, going back to like how strong the pacing of the game is with all the other top-down Zeldas, the pacing was always sort of like throw you in the game, almost immediately get you into a first dungeon, and almost acts like a tutorial of like, how do I move? How do I swing the sword? How do I use this first item that I got? And if it's always felt like kind of a like almost like boring to a degree.
Yeah,
it's like,
after you
just
do it
get
a million
through it.
times, yeah.
But
Yeah.
Echoes of Wisdom, like every dungeon and every sort of like sub scenario has been so dense.
Right.
Like there's so much shit that to do, like think about and to do. And I was like,
Yeah.
I have not really felt that in a top-down Zelda game before.
And
I was like, that's tight.
Yeah, the list of tools that you have is so fucking literally long
Yeah.
that you can consider like, am I going to use a P hat here? Am I going to use am I going to use this enemy here? Am I going to use this, am I going to sit a box here and try to do that?
Throw an army of snakes.
Yeah, right. Army of fucking ropes.
Oh yeah, rope.
Yeah. But yeah, nah. Echoes of Wisdom, the game's going to get finished. The game's going to be, I'm having a good time.
You still got to finish Tears of the Kingdom.
I know, but that's a different beast. I need more time sitting with that game at a time to really feel like I'm getting.
It does need to be
what I
played
need,
in like decent sized chunks.
Yeah, and I mean now that I have a third fucking Switch that I don't mind carrying around,
Yeah, there you
I'll
go.
do it on that. I'll also do it on that, I should say.
Perfectly good.
Yeah. So
is it an OLED also? Does Light have an OLED?
No, Light has no OLED.
Oh, that's fucking sad.
It's
Because Tears of the
alright,
Kingdom looks good as shit.
Yeah, but I mean I have an OLED too, so
Yeah,
I
just
can
make sure
always-
you watch the
I
story
have
shit.
multiple. Yeah, I do that on the TV anyway. So.
Yeah. What else you been playing?
Marvel vs. Capcom
Yeah,
collection.
you've been grinding that
That's what you
bitch out.
So anytime someone sees me playing a fighting game, they think I'm playing it constantly. I'm not. I usually leave them on, and then sometimes I'll queue up for a match or something, and then do other shit. And if I see it's queued up and I'm standing there, then I'll pick it up and play that game.
That's funny.
Like with that game, I'll be sitting on my PC, and my Switch is right next to me with the stick attached to it and everything. And I'll just queue up ranked. I'll do whatever I'm doing on the computer or getting food or whatever. And when I see a match has popped up, it gives me like 40 seconds to accept.
Oh shit. That's a
So
long
I have time to just like pick up the controller, play. And if, we do the 10 rematches, cool. If we don't, then I just set my shit back down, queue up when I'm ready to queue up and do my other shit. So the game just stays on for hours. But I have been playing the shit out of it.
I'm number 14 in Marvel Superheroes on the collection on Switch.
But
Which one is Marvel Superheroes?
It's the game called Marvel Superheroes.
No, I know, but what platform was it for?
Arcade. They're all arcade. Every single one is arcade.
Was that one ever ported though?
That one is, I think it's the Saturn version of it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
people just don't play that game.
well, the main event of that collection for
Not
most
to
people.
make you sound shitty.
No. That's a less played game and it's on Switch, and it's the Switch version specifically, so I'm cheating because I'm using my arcade stick.
That's funny.
But
It's like a fucking 12-year-old kid who just finished the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies and wanted to boot up one of the few Marvel games on Switch.
I'm thinking it's more
getting fucking stomped.
What I think it's more so, actually, I don't think a kid's interested in playing that shit. I think it's more so probably like a 30, 40-something-year-old person using their Switch and handheld, not thinking, oh, I love these games. And
realizing they don't.
And realizing that they don't know how to control that shit with the controller. And it's just like, okay, I'll play this a couple well, some of them do the whole rematches even if they're getting slaughtered, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of the people on there are tearing people to shreds, or tearing me to shreds, I should say. So I'm just like, whatever, the difference in skill is all over the place.
How's the matchmaking?
Perfectly fine. I like skill-wise, you mean?
Yeah. Like, you just said you were getting paired with people that you're slaughtering and getting slaughtered by.
So the thing about that is you never lose points. If you lose, you get like 1 or 2 points. So you're always ranking upward. And they're like, if you play for a long time, you'll eventually find someone that gives you enough points to grind up to like gold or platinum or whatever. So like,
Is that how most of them work?
now
Is that how SF6 works?
what that it,
The point system?
the point
It's
system?
just like
in
you
that-
always get points, just a matter of how long you grind for?
No.
Oh, okay.
In SF6, no.
You lose points?
Depending on what your rank is, you start losing points when you get higher.
Okay.
But when you get master rank, you don't ever
Lose master rank.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the character specifically. So, but there is a separate ranking called master rating for master rank, and you do lose points there. So you can kind of embarrass yourself there if you
That's funny.
if you're too low from the default, people are going to see it and be like, does this person belong here? Which is fucked. You should never have a system where people are like, this is our club, not yours.
But that's kind of fucked
Yeah.
up.
The
But I expect nothing less from the FGC.
but really, like if we're gonna talk about the game, I have mentioned I bought the Switch version. It runs really well there as it should.
Does it?
Yeah, I think the way it feels, I believe Switch was probably the lead platform, especially because it was revealed in the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
All the games run the way they should. It has rollback on Switch, which is relatively uncommon because of the CPU, because it's CPU heavy, I should say. It works. Let me back up a step. I don't rollback kind of sucks in my opinion for a lot of things. And a lot of Switch users
You're
are
gonna
using
catch a lot of hate for that
shittiest
one.
Wi-Fi they can get. What?
You're gonna catch a lot of hate for that one.
Yeah, I mean it's mostly because it doesn't make a bad connection good. Some people think it makes a bad connection. Some people will act like it makes a bad connection good. It doesn't. If a bad connection is bad, then the worst player actually gets the benefit. Not the worst player. The worst connection actually gets the benefit from it. Which, if your connection is shit, great for you, but mine isn't shit. So now I have to wait for. I roll back. I see you teleport a million times.
Yeah.
Waiting for you to, your Switch or whatever to get its information to my console so that we're in sync again. And I hate the teleporting in some. If there's teleporting, it'll fuck up everything because you're dashing all over the place and shit. The games move so quick that you think one thing's happening and something completely different is happening because the prediction that your machine made is incorrect, and that's what rollback does.
Skill issue.
No, not skill issue.
Skill
bitch.
issue.
All right, bitch. All right, let's play.
Here's what you got to do.
Uh-oh.
Here's how you get over the skill issue. You got to untether your Switch from the internet. You got to go wireless. You got to play tabletop mode with a USB-C connector into your arcade stick. Then when you've got the worst connection, you got a hotspot on your phone too. When you've got the worst connection, that's how you get the upper hand. Then you're good. Roll back, baby.
This is why I can't play online with these freaks anymore. No, but regardless, the game runs well when you have a good connection. It feels good. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 runs the way it should. None of the games are fucked up on the Switch version, which is very good. Not that I expected any to be, but some people probably imagine that.
Oh no, it's going to be worse because it's a portable with a battery.
But no, it's good. I don't know how the PS4 version is. I don't know how the PC version is. Did not buy those.
It'd be pretty fucked if they were bad.
Yeah, it would be fucked up. And actually, their matchmaking was fucked for a while on those two versions. So they got the first patch first.
Oh, okay.
Because they fixed the matchmaking for those, and then the Switch got the patch a little bit later. In fact, I think I got it yesterday.
Keep seeing tweets coming up in my timeline of Justin Wong just slaughtering people.
Yeah, the Wazzler, which I don't know where the fucking name comes from, but
he probably just came up with it.
I mean, yeah.
Kind of like how I made my name Sagerino in Pokemon Unite.
That's true. He the gameplay, no. He's been playing for like 30 fucking 20 years.
Yeah. So
you can't really compete with that because actually being good at those games is it's a very strange skill set that you probably just don't have naturally. You have to really build that up, and he's just had so much time to do so. Like I feel like I'm confused playing those fucking games all the time. If I get my ass beat, I feel sick sometimes. I'm just like I don't know what the fuck happened. Did I block? Did I not block? What was the problem? But
you got to record the gameplay, analyze it.
I'm not. I'm
just
gonna record my win.
Skill issue.
Skill issue, skill issue.
But yeah, nah. The game's good. The Marvel collection's good. It's a little expensive, but it's a lot of fun.
How much is it?
It's $50 from Disney tax. I'm still playing Castlevania Dominus Collection.
Are you?
I pop into Order of Ecclesia, but I've just been messing with the other games that have been coming out. So yeah.
Have you gone through them all?
Gone through them all in the Dominus Collection?
Yeah.
Not all the way, no.
Oh. Well, what is your definition of all the way?
All the way? I mean, like, playing it from start to finish, doing the bonus modes. Yeah.
Oh, you're doing both modes?
I'm going to do the bonus modes when
Did you do the bonus modes for the advanced collection?
The advanced collection I actually put less time into.
Why?
Mainly because I had played those games not that long ago on the Wii U. Not that long before that release.
That's fine.
On my Wii U, so I was like, all right.
But you've done it before.
Yeah. Like,
have you? So you've played
Julius mode and what's it called? Maxim,
Aria?
The Maxim stuff. Yeah.
Dude, Maxim's sprite is so fucking
ugly.
It's
you
so
you don't
ugly.
like the bright green line?
It's uglier than, but even beyond the color palette.
Yeah.
The detail or lack of detail, and then the way he moves, and just there's no outline. It's like,
yeah.
Why does it look like this? Why does it look worse than like a Genesis game?
The games are just ugly. It's like
it's so ugly.
They're ugly as shit.
It fucking creeps.
For the first
it
two
like
games.
gives you this weird creeps.
Yeah,
like I can't really describe it.
Not in the way that it's trying to.
Right,
like,
not
spooky,
in a way that's like, oh,
yeah.
spooky Castlevania game,
Yeah.
but in like a weird where it's like I feel like I'm like actually sick, and like I have an illness.
Like, yeah.
And I'm like, this is what my eyes and ears are now
Or
like processing.
This is what, yeah.
This is I have like a sensory processing disorder.
Oh, like COVID days or some shit.
Yeah.
So you have Dominus Collection, yeah.
I have.
So you're
yeah.
gonna play those.
I played Dawn a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then I was like, I need to see where this came from.
You realize that shit was fucking.
It was good.
It's addictive as shit. That game's very, very good.
It's good.
But yeah,
it is. What are the things I was thinking about?
Mm-hmm.
Just like looking at these games, right?
Yeah.
Looking at Harmony, looking at Circle of the Moon, both different and
Mm-hmm.
innovative, but like in different ways.
Yeah.
And they were churning that shit out, dude.
Yeah, they were
3 advanced games, 3 DS games, all in the span of like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like
not in less than 10 years. It took less than 10 years for all those to come out. It was
2001 to 2009.
2001 to like 2008.
So like 7 to 8 years. They came out with 6. Like I would say they're all reasonably good. Say what you will of Harmony. I think it's fine.
Yeah. The game is fine. The game is fine. It's ugly as fuck. That's all.
But and then like that's it.
Yeah.
Like they basically didn't come out. They came out with the 3DS game.
Yeah.
And they came out with what was Lords of Shadow 2 after that?
They
was 1 and
no,
2
there was
after
no
that?
it was Lords of Shadow, and then Lords of Shadow had a 3DS like spin-off game. And
but like why was that their only try? Why did they take this highly valued IP and not just like make more shit? Like I was comparing it in my mind to like Mario, where it's like, yeah, Mario went through a phase of like, there was New Super Mario Bros. 2, there was New Super Mario Bros. Wii, New Super Mario Bros. Wii U, but like, and it's not comparable because Mario's a different beast.
It's
But I'm thinking from the perspective of gaps between games and different hands getting on the IP.
Yeah. Those Castlevania games, the handheld ones, didn't sell too great.
Oh, really?
They sold like okay to poorly. And because they put out so many of them, it was like we gave it like this many chances. No. They didn't devalue anything. It was just like, we gave it this many chances. We need to do something.
Interesting.
So they were like, okay, new direction, make it God of War. And that's what Lords of Shadow was being.
Now that you're saying this, I need to look at a graph of like sales as percentage of like market. Like, how big was the video game market for that console?
Yeah.
And then how well did it sell across the timeline of Castlevania games?
Right. Like you put that shit on fucking.
Like I imagine Symphony of the Night was probably one of the best selling. Or not even? Interesting.
Symphony of the Night had the problem of everyone. It got a lot of criticism because it was
different.
It was 2D.
But they had all been 2D. I guess N64.
But in a 3D, in an age where things were
That's right. I
moving
do
to 3D.
remember reading that. I do remember reading
Yeah.
that criticism. There's
It's
like reviews in Game Pro.
There's like
and
reviews
shit.
and shit. I think Sony was weird about it because it was 2D. Just like
like not taking advantage of the hardware.
like we
that
don't
way.
we don't want people to see 2D games on our system. We want you. It's just got to be 3D. They did it anyway.
But the fact still remains, like it's still a valued franchise and IP,
Yeah.
and for them to have gone this long without just trying something,
Mhm.
even if like giving it as a sort of DLC extension collab,
Mhm.
like it makes sense in that context. But I also
Are you talking about? Oh, I know.
Just
you
like
mean.
what they've
with
been
the
doing
other stuff like
recently,
Dead by
like Dead
Daylight
Cells
and
and Dead by
Cells
Daylight
and
Netflix.
V Rising and all that shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
V Rising, and so like it makes sense given the context of like it just has never been a good selling franchise. So maybe
Yeah.
they're just trying to like garner excitement for the brand again,
Yeah, I think, and I think it probably makes more money to utilize the brand this way,
like royalties.
than it does by using games. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because now you're not relying on
but the
a
two kind of
fickle
like
audience.
feed into each other.
the two
So, like,
feed into each
they
other. So
gotta
you
do
watch the
something at
show
some
and
point.
then you buy the collection.
Exactly. So yeah, I guess, but now they're out of collections.
I mean, they still have 3D games they need to put out.
yeah, but be real.
Regardless,
let's
it's
be
three-
real about those bad
it's-
boys.
Lament of Innocence is okay.
I do want to play the PS2 ones.
Yeah.
If they put the two PS2 ones, I'd actually be pretty happy about that.
I'd like to have Harmony of Dissonance on something that isn't the PS2 because it's locked. It's locked on PS2 and the original Xbox because it never got.
You mean Lament of
Re-release-
Innocence?
What did I say?
You said Harmony of Dissonance.
Yeah, Lament of Innocence, whatever. Lament of Innocence is not even on like PS3, the store or anything. But Lament of Innocence is. What am I talking about? Curse of Darkness. Curse of Darkness is not. That's the one. That's on Xbox though. You know, not backward compatible
It needs
or
to be
anything.
on Steam. It needs to be on
So.
all the things.
Yeah, I would like for all of these games to just be available on PC and then all the consoles at the time.
Yeah, but like it's. I was comparing it to other Konami shit.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense that they are done with Metal Gear essentially.
Mhm.
Because like it's told its story. It's a
Yeah.
very story centric.
It's very
Franchise?
story centric, and the shit goes like
Castlevania is like so storyless in my opinion. Like I'm gonna catch some fucking heat for that, but like it's about the game and like the ambience,
Yeah,
and so like there's so much you could do with that.
there's a bunch
so
of little
much shit.
stories.
Just give it to some new blood, you know.
That's what Lords of Shadow was. So
Well, do it again.
I
mean,
M2 remade,
And
fucking-
actually, that's actually a perfect example of them just like not doing it in the right way because like
Mhm.
Mercury Steam is like putting out good shit.
yeah.
So
I think Mercury Steam needs a lot of
they need more direction.
they need someone to keep them on the rails.
They need direction.
And then once you get that, then you get the quality.
Yeah, so they
games
probably
out of
just
them.
didn't have direction, and also the fact that Lords of Shadow wasn't even going to be a Lord.
It wasn't
like
even going to be a
Castlevania
Castlevania game.
it was retrofitted.
Not to mention, Lords of Shadow was having development issues
Yeah,
when it got turned into a Castlevania game anyway.
yeah.
So
So like, to bring this back to some other games I've been playing recently,
yeah.
they should do with Castlevania what they did with Prince of Persia.
Oh yeah,
They gave
I'd
Prince
like
of Persia.
that.
They were just like a team, kind of self-organized.
Mhm.
Gave us a good fucking Metroidvania game that got a ton of free DLC.
Yeah,
I hope it sold well. I don't actually know how well it sold, but it was like showcased on Direct, showcased
Yeah.
on various shit.
that fucking Prince of Persia game is the best Ubisoft game that's come out in a long time, and it
It's really
still is.
good.
It's better than.
The extra
Yeah.
shit that they added is really fucking good.
Yeah.
I was like playing around.
Oh
with
yeah,
the
I saw
challenges
you were
and
fucking
shit,
with it. Yeah.
and I was like, damn, these are like really intelligently made.
Yeah. So, something about that game, I could feel it just from playing the demo, that the people who were making that game really gave a shit
Yeah.
about like the legacy of the series and then what it meant to make it in 2024.
Right.
Because the original game is a time trial. It's a maze.
Right.
It's a 2D maze, and that is what the game is. That's what
Mhm.
this game is, and they do it without leaning too hard on some other stories or other mechanics that you're used to.
Well, talking about
Something,
story,
you know.
I know I've said this before, but like the story is really good.
Mhm.
Like it seems like it's going to be a game where the story is kind of
That's
nothing.
kind of throwaway. Yeah.
But this like as you play the game, you're like, oh shit, there's like good
There's-
shit behind the
there's
scenes
stakes.
here. Like there's
going
lore,
to this.
lore items. I didn't really fucking read any of the lore items,
Yeah, there's
but like
yeah.
the actual story beats and the characters and the things the ways they're interacting. I was like,
Yeah.
they
This
did
is-
some funny play with like the name of the game. It like meant more than one thing, and I was like,
interesting.
that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they had new fresh blood, fresh ideas in that way.
Mhm.
They also gave it to the Dead Cells people to make the roguelike.
Yeah,
Which is
there's a
like-
roguelike.
Visually looks fresh.
Did it come out?
It's in early access.
Oh, it's in
I
early
think,
access, so
which I'm
it's
always
kinda
like
sorta-
fucking whatever
yeah.
about.
Yeah.
But again, like new idea. They gave it
Mm-hmm.
to a different, like, you know, they're outsourcing the talent,
Yeah.
which is like I think what you kind of have to do with a brand that you have to take care of.
But with stuff like this, it's a lot of it will come down to people that really have an idea of what to do with the series that they've been attached to, and like they may have been inspired by for their own games in the past.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to worry about someone having an understanding of it because they already do. You just let them do
Right.
their thing and kind of be like, okay, how's it turning out? What is this? What is that? We need to do it this way. We need to do it that way. But like that's how Sonic Mania happened. Sonic Mania, it
Right,
it
exactly.
understood how 2D Sonic, like the things that people thought a 2D Sonic were.
Right.
They made it that
Yeah.
instead of doing what it actually was, and then ending
Which
up with
was
the
kinda
Sonic 2,
jank.
which is jank and
Yeah.
weird.
You mean Sonic 4?
Yes, I mean, Sonic 4 doesn't understand shit. Sonic 4 sucks. Sonic 4 isn't even in the conversation.
Yeah,
I'm
but
talking about like
Sonic 4 is the perfect example of what I'm talking about, though.
what
It's like, what do we think 2D Sonic was
yeah,
in like for all of its flaws and shit, and then like trying to build on like the oldness of it
Yeah.
in a new generation without trying to think of what made it fun.
it made it fun, right? What people think of it when they think of the fun.
Right.
And like even then that game was outsourced too.
That's
like
true.
Dimps made that.
Yeah.
So, and they made Street Fighter 4. So it's like I don't know. It's
It's a gamble.
yeah, it's a coin flip. You gotta hope
You need strong direction.
that the people that are involved have a real like sense of the fun of the IP, and they hone in on that rather than trying to keep everything
Right.
and not delivering anything to the top level because they made a compromise
Yeah.
thinking the game's got to have this dumb like block pushing shit
Right.
from Sonic. Like it doesn't need that shit.
From Sonic 1.
Like yeah. Like Sonic 1 I use as an example because Sonic 1 sucks. Sonic 1 is not fun. There's a reason why on like Nintendo Switch Online, Sonic 2 is the game that's on there
Yeah.
and not 1. Because 1 is not fun. 2 is when the game started actually being fun.
Funny, I see a lot of people on Twitter defending Sonic 1 these days for some reason.
The music's good. That's it. There's nothing but
Last thing I want to say
Yeah,
before
go.
we sign off,
Yeah.
unless you had any thoughts.
No, we're good. Well,
You were
we have
talking
something
about
to
the
talk
Z
about, so-
axis of Echoes of Wisdom,
Yeah.
and I want to bring it around to the game I got you for your birthday
Yeah, which
because it does exactly the same thing of
okay.
feeling like a top-down game,
but
but adding the Z
you have
axis.
to think about it in 3D space.
Yeah, exactly. And the way they do it, I think, is it works. There's like some minor annoyances with like just the nature of implementing a Z axis with a game that aesthetically and camera wise is built that way.
Right.
But I think they did as good as they could have with what they built. But that was the first thing I thought of when I played Echoes of Wisdom. I was like,
Okay.
might as well crosscode a little bit.
So I did open it and I popped it in my Switch. So I found out it was the
First
German
step.
version.
Is that good?
I mean, it's
that bad?
the game would be in English, but I couldn't redeem coins for it.
Oh shit!
It wouldn't.
This is
It
what
wouldn't even
happens
let
when you
me
order
try.
from
It,
Amazon.
it said I couldn't do it yet. I was like, what do you mean yet? Oh, it's because I'm not in the right region. I get it. Fuck you. Yeah, nah. So I have 3 Switch consoles, so that'll probably sit in the cartridge slot of the new one. But okay, I don't have a particular higher fans, but I do have something we can talk about in that
Let's
vein
do it.
very quickly.
I think I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah. So the second tower has fallen, and
Jesus Christ.
Nintendo contacted the Ryujinx, the dev, and Ryujinx is gone. It needs a Switch emulator. The repository is gone. And I'm sure I'm sure you can still get
will
it.
distribute it.
Yeah, but my understanding is Nintendo might have actually came to an agreement with them.
Interesting.
And instead of, of course they weren't going to be like, oh no, we're not going to do that, because then they'd be taken to court and they'd lose hard, or they probably wouldn't be able to afford to do that. But I also think Ryujinx is a Brazilian. It's a Brazilian
different
thing.
Law structure.
But on top,
structure.
yeah, some people have speculated actually, and Nintendo has actually done this before, that they intend to hire some of the people that were working on it in order to build an emulation solution for the sake of backward compatibility. That's speculation. That may or may not be true.
If it's true, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a cool
kind of
thing.
what we talked about, where it's like the path to actual higher fans.
Yeah.
Is through shit like that, through shit like the decomp of N64
right.
games, like actual preservation and like fidelity and faithfulness.
You do things that would be tools for
tools.
The IP holder,
right?
Rather than trying to replace them,
right?
And if you do it amicably, you probably save yourself a bunch of money. Granted, Nintendo also kind of hit. I think Nintendo hit a YouTube channel recently that was showing off that MIG switch. They call it something else now.
The Wii U one? The Wii U one?
No. That little cartridge you put an SD card into, and then you click it in, and you can play whatever games you have on it.
It's like an R4.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And the channel was just kind of blatantly showing that off, and Nintendo was like, yo, fuck you, copyright strike, copyright strike. And everyone knows Nintendo's one of the more,
heavy-handed.
They do this a lot, and it upsets people, understandably. Because I'm a grown man, I generally don't care how this business runs itself. I don't need their products, so if they piss me off, I just will stop buying them. That's not going to happen, but I will stop buying them if they piss me off enough. But either way, I think with the way the Switch generation went, or has been going, with emulation popping up and people running the games on other platforms like the day they come out, or maybe 5 days before,
which is wild.
I think people put themselves in the crosshair and got comfortable that they could keep doing what they were doing without hearing anything about it, because a lot of times, sometimes like this takes time to set up a legal situation where you aren't.
Now that you mention it, I think this is probably the first platform where emulation has maintained the pace of the release schedule.
Yeah, yep.
Like 3DS, we still don't have like a great 3DS emulation option, even before Citra got nuked into oblivion.
Yeah, exactly.
But like DS and 3DS, by the nature of like their weird architecture, the two screens,
yeah, just
like
the weird play
it's
system.
Just like never really. I mean, even same with GBA. GBA still like kind of suffers sometimes, even on like Steam Deck and shit.
GBA
like
emulation,
the cores are weird. They don't really work very well.
GBA emulation that isn't done by M2 specifically makes me fucking ill, because I can see the stutter. I have like, you can have a machine that completely blows the goddamn Game Boy Advance out of the water, like hundreds of thousands of times more powerful. Yeah. But it'll still do something that feels like playing Zero Mission in an emulator it's off enough that I don't find it enjoyable.
Right.
And that's one of those things where I'm like, if you can not emulate it, don't.
Right.
Because emulation, while immediately can look better, you'll notice some things that feel worse, and like, it might be control latency. It might be any amount of things. Sometimes you don't get any of that, but it's a coin flip.
Yeah.
Usually I'm like,
but it just goes to show, like, the hardware has not been easily emulatable since the N64.
Right.
Like,
I mean, even
Super
then,
Nintendo
like,
is basically when it's like you're really not going to perceive any difference.
It's Super Nintendo. You're
talking
in,
30 years ago.
Exactly. You're in territory where people have been working on that since the system fucking came out, basically. But
with the Switch, it's a more homogenized hardware comparatively.
It's a normal machine. Normal
graphics card. Like the architecture is normalized.
The SoC is a common thing that had been being used before the Switch came out.
Yeah, so you see, even again, it's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't need to be perfect if it's saving people $60. And free the first day.
Well, yeah, and even skipping the $60 that like someone buys the game and they rip it themselves, it's like, some people want a higher, quote unquote, higher fidelity experience. And sometimes
like 4K
you can get
upscale.
Yeah, sometimes you can get it, but some of the games are obviously not meant for that. Though, granted, Echoes of Wisdom apparently worked just fine at 120 FPS day one.
Holy
So I was like, ugh, oops.
oh fuck.
And that probably pissed Nintendo off too.
That actually probably because there's known frame drop situations and echoes.
Not in the way it's like, oh, this plays better than. It's more like, oh, if you tell people this, they're gonna skip the buying the game part so they can play it on their PC.
There's
and
the FOMO of like missing out on a better, quote unquote, better
experience.
experience.
Yeah. And I get people wanting wanting the best experience they can get for sure. It's just like there's a trade-off, and if you're making content based on that specific, like if you're making money based on making content on that shit, you're just putting yourself in a crosshair. You should enjoy that stuff privately, make a blog post, make the shit for people to find it if they so desire, that kind of thing, and then focus your content
Leave
on
the breadcrumbs. Don't like turn on the flashing lights.
Exactly. And don't be confused when someone comes down on you for it. Like this is gonna sound real crusty. You might hate this. I don't know. But I've said it before. It's very much a white boy problem where these dudes have not experienced the kind of consequences that comes with being told not to do something and then having to hide that you're doing it so that you can survive. Like if you strap your money to this, you can't signal to everyone that you're doing it. You're not a hero. You're fucking it up for everyone behind you.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I imagine there's a predominant demographic at play here.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Oops. But okay.
But yeah, hire the Ryujigs, folks.
Yeah. Hopefully they get hired.
Nintendo
Hopefully they did everything right and covered their tracks while making the emulator and didn't use like keys and everything from
Which it doesn't sound
Nintendo.
like they did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It sounds like they probably did everything right. They just exist.
They just got exposed.
So and Nintendo was like, hey,
we'll
give you this
spotlight
if
on
you
them.
stop doing this. But if you don't stop, we're going to take legal action. So the option is clear. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, good shit.
Yep. Easy.
You like a comment? You like a subscribe? Hit us up. We're at Memory League Podcast.
Just
at gmail.com.
Memory League Podcast at gmail.com. Feel free to send us botted offers.
We are at Memory League
shit.
Podcast at gmail.com. Memory League Podcast at gmail.com. Memory League Podcast at gmail.com. Hit us up. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
Okay.
And that's it. Until next time.
We're in it. All right.
Maxim out.
Stupid.